YouTube. So the Miami Dolphins have released their official depth chart for our first game for 2022 against the New England Patriots, and I just kind of want to take a look at it. We'll start with offense. I'm not necessarily going to go top to bottom because, the positions are kind of mixed up. I'm going to kind of go by position group. I'll start with quarterback, Tua, Teddy, and Skyler. We kind of already knew that. We were going to have to run with 3 quarterbacks. That just kind of is what that is. Happy to see that we do not, in fact, have 2 fullbacks on the active roster. That would be stupid. But it does look like Alec Ingold will be able to play, which is great. We got all 4 of our running backs. Obviously, Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds being our starting 1A and 1B running backs, with Gaskin and Ahmed being our backups. I do like that quite a bit. I do think that Miles is our running back 3, really. Receiver is, pretty simple. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle being our number 1 and 2. Cedric Wilson being our number 3, and really our slot receiver. Really, all 3 of them are starters because I think all 3 of them will see the field a lot. Trent Sherfield, he's the guy that already kind of knows Mike McDaniel's system, so it would make sense if he gets a lot of playing time early in the season. But don't be surprised if Eric Izukama, kind of passes him up pretty early in the season. But I think in this first game, I think Trent will probably get some more touches. Just until Eric kind of gets to play in the system a little bit more. As far as our offensive line, actually I'll start with tight end. Mike Gesicki being our starting tight end, I think is kind of interesting because I think Durham Smythe is our full-time tight end, and Mike Gesicki I think kind of has a specialist role. He's kind of more of a big receiver type of thing. He's going to play a lot. Mike McDaniel is supposed to be this offensive genius, so I do think that he will find a way to use Mike Gesicki to a good level. But I think Durham Smythe gives you the balance you're looking for. I do kind of see that Hunter Long has beaten out Ethan Carter for the for the number 3 tight end spot. But really, Ethan Carter isn't even really a tight end. He is, but he's more of an H-back, and we'll probably use him as such. He'll probably come in on specific packages. But for real, he's probably going to be playing mostly special teams. I thought Tanner Connor was hurt. If not, I'd like to see him play a little bit. That is a lot of tight ends to carry on a depth chart. It really is. But yeah, so there is quite a bit to talk about there with the tight end room. And obviously having a lot of tight ends, kind of like a linebacker, can really help your special teams out. So that is a thing. Offensive line, Teron Armstead obviously being our left tackle. Looking forward to actually seeing him play for the Dolphins. That's going to be fun. I do like seeing Greg Little as our swing tackle. He had a much better preseason and camp than any of the other guys, especially Larnell Coleman. I'm still not a massive fan of him, but he did perform better than Larnell at the very least. And he is a pretty athletic guy that fits our system pretty well. Austin Jackson, obviously our starting right tackle. Hopefully he makes strides going throughout the season. Obviously, again, very athletic and does fit the system, but his technique does need a lot of work. Hopefully he kind of figures it out as the season goes along. Liam Eichenberg, I'm just kind of hoping hangs on for dear life and doesn't die. And Connor Williams at center. He's a solid player. I'm kind of concerned about seeing what he's going to bring to the table as a center. I know that I was hearing that he was having some issues snapping the football in camp, so hopefully that doesn't, pose a problem for the Dolphins in the regular season. But I didn't really see too many issues during preseason, so hopefully he's kind of ironed those out. Worst case scenario, we move Connor Williams back to left guard like he played for the Cowboys, and we just put Michael Dieter in as our starting center. I think Liam Eichenberg and Michael Dieter are pretty similar levels of talent. I might even like Michael Dieter slightly better. So I wouldn't necessarily hate the idea. But also, here's the thing. If Connor Williams is just as good of a center as he is a guard, I would rather him play center just because of his skill set. Because Connor Williams, what he brings to the table is athleticism and technique. But where he kind of does struggle a little bit is his strength. I know a lot of people criticize him because of the amount of penalties he got with Dallas, but a lot of those holding calls that he got were because he was up against opponents that were more powerful than him. And he would kind of have to hold to kind of deal with that. And at guard, you are constantly going to end up in situations where you're going to be one-on-one, with these big defensive linemen, these big two-gapping, 3-4 defensive ends, the nose tackles and things of that nature, even some 3-techs who are a little bit bigger. You're going to be dealing with a lot of that, and a lot of times you are going to be one-on-one, where at center, you'll be able to help the center out a little bit more by giving them some guard help. So I do think that is a thing for Connor. But yeah, that's just kind of my thought there. Robert Jones kind of being our swing guard as well. I'm cool with that. As far as defense, nothing really in our D-line room is really that surprising. Christian Wilkins and Zach Sealer are really our starting 3-4 defensive ends when we do our 3-4 defensive end packages. Raekwon Davis is our starting nose, obviously. And then Emmanuel Ogbah is kind of his own role. He's just kind of his own position. And then obviously, Jalen Phillips is one of our starting edge rushers, and Melvin Ingram as well. With Andrew Van Ginkel, I think it looks like he's probably going to be playing, but probably on limited snaps after having his appendix removed. I would rather him just not play. But if he's going to play, at least, manage his snaps. Emmanuel Ogbah is really an edge rusher for real. So I think with Emmanuel Ogbah, Jalen Phillips, Melvin Ingram, and Trey Flowers, I think that should be enough at edge. And Sam McGuavin can line up at edge as well. He is fully capable of doing that. And at the very least, I think you can even put Channing Tindall on the edge and just let him be fast. I think in a pinch, I think you can get away with that. But I don't really want to do that too much. And then obviously at corner, this isn't really showing like where our nickels are going to be, unfortunately. But having Xavier Howard and Nick Needham as our number 1 and 2 obviously makes sense right now without Byron here. Keon Crossan and Noah Igbenogany being over Cater, I'm not a big fan of, but I get it. Cater is an undrafted rookie. They're probably going to want to see him develop a little bit more. But I thought he performed better than both of them, if I'm going to be honest with you. But that's just my thought. But realistically, what I've been saying is when we're in like base 3-4, I would like Xavier Howard and Nick Needham to be our outside receivers. But when we do go to the nickel, which we do a lot of nickel packages, I would like to put Nick back in at his normal position in the slot, and either let Noah or Keon Crossan guard the boundary. That's kind of where they're better, especially Noah. He is a better boundary corner than a nickel corner. He struggles on the inside. But the reason for that, because even though Nick is better than Keon Crossan and Noah Igbenogany, even on the boundary, the reason why I still want him playing inside as much as possible is because that is where Nick Needham is at his best. And I would rather be bad at one position than two, if that makes sense. I'd rather have Nick and Xavier Howard at their best and just have a weakness at corner than, Nick move to the boundary where he's not as comfortable, at least not all game, and see him struggle as well, if that makes sense. But like I said, when we're in our 3-4 and 4-3 base packages where, we're not bringing in an extra corner or an extra safety, I do think putting Nick on the boundary is fine. But honestly, I think I would almost rather do a lot of big nickel this game because the Patriots are probably going to want to run the ball a lot. They have quite a decent run game, and I think their running backs are better than their receivers, to be honest with you. So I think some big nickel packages where we get Brandon Jones, Javon Holland, and Eric Rowe involved, I think would be a pretty interesting thing to do. So we'll kind of see there. Special teams, not really a whole lot to talk about besides the returners. This is kind of why I was hoping to keep Lynn Bowden, because I didn't really want to see Raheem Mostert, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, or Javon Holland anywhere near return. Raheem Mostert also already has a lot of issues with getting injured. I know he's very fast and he is good at returning kicks, but I don't really want the injury risk putting him on special teams. I'd rather have him at running back. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, I would rather use them for return during like clutch situations. You know, when we really need a big return in like the fourth quarter or something like that, end of a half. Something like that, I'd be willing to do that, but I would have rather have, you know, a designated return man, you know, play in, play out, just regular kickoff and punt return. Just because I'm not really trying to risk those guys getting hurt. And Javon Holland, I don't really want him doing it at all. So that's just kind of my thought. I'd put Noah Igbenogany as our starting kick and punt returner. He's not as good as those guys, but I'm not as afraid to lose him as those guys. So that's my thought. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of take a look at this depth chart. I thought there was some interesting points here. Now, like I said, it is a little bit misleading because some of these, you know, players that look like they're, you know, backups aren't actually backups. Like for sure, the receiver, Cedric Wilson, is basically a starting wide receiver. He's our slot guy. Really, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Cedric Wilson are basically all starting wide receivers. So that's the thing. That's just kind of my thought. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. If you liked it, I appreciate you hitting that like button, having any questions or comments in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.